They say thunder is the voice of the gods, but in the heart of the mighty Oyo Empire, it was the battle cry of a man, a king whose power shook the earth and split the sky. When Shango spoke, the heavens rumbled. When he raised his double-headed axe, fire and fury rained from above. Some believed he was merely a warrior of unmatched strength. Others swore he was something more, a force of nature in human form, with thunder in his veins and lightning in his wrath. Yet Shango's rise was no ordinary tale. It began with a prophecy, one that would transform a warrior into a king, and a king into a god. So, sit back, because this is African Myths Unveiled. Before he became the Orisha of thunder and lightning, Shango was a man, born into royalty, but destined for more than just a throne. He was the third Alaafin, king of Oyo, a kingdom that would one day dominate much of West Africa. His birth was no ordinary event. Legends say that when Shango first opened his eyes, the skies darkened, and distant rumbles of thunder shook the ground. The diviners whispered among themselves, "This child is not like the others." From a young age, Shango displayed unnatural strength and a fierce temper. He trained relentlessly, wielding his double-headed axe with a mastery no one could rival. He spoke with the voice of a leader, and his presence alone commanded respect. But it wasn't just brute strength that set him apart. It was his hunger for power, his thirst for greatness. By the time Shango ascended the throne, Oyo was a kingdom on the rise. But threats loomed from all sides: rival kings, rebellious warlords, and even whispers of betrayal from within his own court. Shango was not a ruler to sit idly on a throne. No, he was a warrior first, and his reign began with fire and steel. One day, during a council meeting, an elder chieftain spoke cautiously. "Your Majesty, the northern raiders grow bolder each moon. They test our borders, steal our cattle. If we do not act, they will soon challenge our rule." Shango's eyes flashed like the storm clouds above Oyo. He rose to his feet, gripping his battle axe. "Then we shall remind them why Oyo stands above all. Prepare the warriors. At dawn, we ride." And ride they did. With Shango leading at the front, the warriors of Oyo descended upon the raiders like a hurricane. He fought like a god among men, his axe cleaving through enemy ranks, his voice booming like the skies themselves. It was said that with every swing of his weapon, the clouds darkened and thunder roared across the battlefield. His enemies feared him, not just as a man, but as something more. With each victory, his legend grew. But power is a dangerous thing, and the more he conquered, the more his ambition burned. Was Shango still a man, or was he something greater? Something divine? With every conquest, Shango's legend grew. He was no longer just a king. He was a force of nature. His warriors believed he was blessed by the gods, while his enemies whispered that he was a god. But with power came arrogance, and with arrogance came the seeds of destruction. Oyo flourished under his rule. The kingdom expanded, wealth flowed in, and its warriors became unmatched. But Shango was not satisfied. He wanted more. He craved absolute control, not just over men, but over the elements themselves. And so, he sought the forbidden knowledge of the Babalawos, the great diviners of Ifa. One night, guided by the flickering light of oil lamps, he entered the sacred grove, where the high priest awaited him. The air was thick with incense, and ancient verses were whispered in hushed tones. "You seek the power of the storm, Alaafin," the priest said, his voice deep and knowing. "But power comes with a price." Shango did not flinch. "I am the rightful ruler of Oyo. I fear no price." The priest hesitated, but then passed Shango a small blackened gourd. Inside was a potion, brewed from the roots of a tree, said to be older than time itself. Shango drank without question, and then darkness. Thunder cracked overhead. A blinding light exploded in his mind. He saw visions, lightning dancing at his fingertips, flames erupting from his breath, entire cities kneeling before him in terror. When he awoke, his hands burned with an energy he could not explain. He had been changed. The days that followed proved his transformation. In battle, his rage alone could call down fire from the heavens. His enemies were struck down, not just by steel, but by the raw fury of the storm. His people trembled before him, awed by his power, but also afraid. Then came the night that changed everything. A terrible storm raged over Oyo, the worst in living memory. The palace walls trembled under the howling winds. Lightning struck the temple of Ifa, setting it ablaze. The people ran through the streets crying out, "The gods are angry!" And at the heart of the storm stood Shango. His eyes glowed with a fiery brilliance, his arms raised to the heavens. He commanded the lightning, called upon the storm to bend to his will. But the power was beyond even him. The skies raged out of control, and Oyo burned. The Council of Elders met in secret. "He is no longer our king. He is a god gone mad," one of them whispered. "If we do not stop him, Oyo will fall." And so, a rebellion was born, not from his enemies, but from his own people. Shango, the king who had once been invincible, now stood on the edge of ruin. The air in Oyo was thick with fear. The very people who once praised Shango's name now whispered against him. The Council of Elders, the same men who had sworn their loyalty, plotted in the shadows. His own generals, the warriors who had once followed him into battle without question, now wavered in their devotion. Shango was no longer seen as a king. He was something far more dangerous, a ruler whose power had grown beyond control. The storm he had unleashed still lingered, dark clouds looming over Oyo, as if the heavens themselves hesitated, waiting for what was to come. Then, the rebellion began. It started in the dead of night. The palace gates burst open as warriors loyal to the elders stormed in. The clash of steel rang through the corridors. The flickering torches cast long shadows as Shango's personal guards fought to defend him. But he was not afraid. Standing atop the palace balcony, overlooking the chaos below, he clenched his fists. Thunder rumbled in response. The storm that had threatened to consume Oyo was now his to wield. With a roar that shook the heavens, Shango raised his hands, and bolts of lightning struck the earth, setting the battlefield ablaze. The rebels faltered, but their numbers were too great. His warriors fell one by one. The walls of his kingdom, the empire he had built with blood and fire, now crumbled around him. Then, in the chaos, his most trusted general stepped forward. It was Jakuta, a man who had once sworn to defend him to the death. But tonight, his blade was drawn not in loyalty, but in betrayal. "It is over, Alafin," Jakuta said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "Step down, or we will end this by force." Shango's heart burned with rage. He had given Oyo everything. He had made it strong. And now, these cowards wanted to take it from him? But deep inside, he knew. He had gone too far. The gods had given him power, but he had wielded it recklessly. He had become not a ruler, but a storm, wild, uncontrollable, and ultimately doomed to destroy everything in its path. Shango laughed, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the battlefield. The rebels paused, watching as their former king, the man they had feared and worshipped, stood tall one last time. "You think you can kill me?" he said, his voice defiant. "No man can kill a god." Then, before anyone could move, he turned and leapt. From the highest tower of the palace, Shango hurled himself into the raging storm. The wind swallowed him, the lightning embraced him, and in an instant, he was gone. The people of Oyo searched for days, but his body was never found. Some say he perished in the storm. Others believe he ascended into the heavens, becoming the Orisha of thunder and lightning. And to this day, when the sky rumbles and the clouds flash with fury, the Yoruba people say, "Shango still lives." Shango's story is one of power, ambition, and transformation. It teaches the dangers of unchecked power and the fine line between divinity and destruction. He is still worshipped today as an Orisha in the Yoruba religion and in Afro-Caribbean spiritual traditions like Santeria and Candomblé. His legend serves as a reminder. The storm is mighty, but even it must be respected. If you enjoyed this tale of Shango, the thunder god who ruled as a king, let me know in the comments. Which African mythology should I cover next? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story from the world of African legends.